mean tie-in? I don't know what they meant, 3-bit. Hey, but what's up, everybody? We are live. This is Fun Speculation Podcast, FSP episode. I don't know. Oh, you know what? I actually can see it. It's episode 18. 18 already. And that's with missing a few because we got crazy busy for a little while. Again, new day, new format. Thank you all, chat, for being here. Nice and early. I see you guys. Thank you so much. Tony Grasso, Artie, Hertog, Invader, Andrew. Appreciate you guys. And like I said before, guys, we're on a new night again. You know, last week was our first official day and time of this new slot, and I think it's going to probably work out for us. And we have, with new slot again, like last week, we got a bigger panel now. So thank you to the panel and chat. So let's get started with some intros, everybody. Fuzzy Belvedere, the always fuzzy. What's up, man?
What's up, everyone? Glad to be here. Man, I was hoping for a little bit of news today as far as from Xbox, but man, I know they got so much stuff in the pipeline right now. It's like they're probably pulling the name out of the hat on which one to unveil next type of deal. But definitely looking forward to June. Can't wait to get into some of these topics we got tonight. And man, love being here with you guys. And we already got the chat fired up, so let's go.
Yeah, man. It's like, man, they keep teasing us right now, right? Like,
yeah, you keep smelling something that's not coming.
Yeah,
well,
well,
hey,
what's the smell?
hold on, it's coming. I just don't know when. It's coming soon. Something's coming soon because they keep teasing us. Some people know something out there. I smell it. I don't know anything. I smell it though. Something big is about to happen. It's gonna be cool whenever it happens. I don't know what the hell's going on. I just like having fun on Twitter, but what's interesting is some of the people that have been like also smelling something in the comments of the smelling post. You know, so we're gonna see how long we can keep that going. But hey, Jasper, what's up, man?
Hey,
how you doing?
Doing pretty good. I watched Batman versus Superman last night because I haven't seen that. So yeah, I decided to watch that.
Was it a good rewatch or worse than you remember or better?
I like it better than the Batman. They just came out, so
that's heresy.
Really?
Wait, was it the ultimate cut?
Yeah, it was the one on HBO. I don't know if there's both on there, but
that's the ultimate cut. I think it's the better one.
Yeah. I'll talk to you about this later.
Well, I may have some like interesting thoughts too after watching the Batman the second time. This has got to be a fun pop discussion though.
Like, yeah.
Wait, didn't we talk about this on Fun Pop a little bit last week
Yeah, I don't know if was 3-bit there.
I think we grazed it.
Okay, we grazed it.
Was I there?
I can't remember if you're there or not.
If I wasn't there, I was there in spirit.
Yeah. I don't know. By the way, speaking of being here, thanks for being here, 3-bit. And hi, how's it going,
Hello.
man? You had a busy day today?
Yeah. Work was crazy today. Lots of stuff going on, but I'm here to talk games with you guys. And hello, chat. It's popping. And let's get it going.
Yeah.
I got Mike's hard.
RDM says, oh, you got your Mike's hard?
Yeah, we're sponsored.
What is that? That's not lemonade.
Grape or black?
Oh, black cherry.
Black cherry, yeah.
RDM says, should we just skip May? Well, I don't know. We get a lot of cool stuff in May. You know, like we may not get, I don't know. I think there's going to be some gaming news in May, but besides that, we also have my birthday's in May. So maybe if my birthday doesn't happen, I won't get older. So I'm okay with that. But there's some cool movies and stuff coming out in May. There's also
Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, there's also doesn't Obi-Wan start in May? Is that
May 27th, I think, or something?
Yeah. And then Halo
New Star Trek in May.
Halo season 2 starts in May. It's gonna be a long season, but the start of it is at least gonna be fun.
Oh, you mean the game? I was like, the show already?
No.
It ends in May.
But we will have more episodes of that show, which if you watched the last episode, then you're probably hyped up, a little bit because I rewatched it. Yet. I rewatched. You haven't finished it yet?
No, I keep falling asleep, and not because it's boring.
On episode 5?
Yeah, I think I'm on episode 5. I believe. When did it come out?
Last week. Wednesday.
Last week on Wednesday.
Then yeah, that's the one I'm Yeah,
How far are you into it? Because it's only like 40 something minutes.
like 10 minutes in.
Just wait for the last 20
Every time I
minutes
turn
of
on.
that show, bro. Like,
Yeah, I heard it was really
yeah.
epic, so I'm
I
excited
watched
to
it.
watch it tonight.
I watched it again last night. I usually don't do that. I usually don't watch an
Yeah, I watched that
episode.
episode twice.
I don't usually ever watch an episode of a show twice. I don't know if I ever have done that. To be honest with you, this is like a first. This is probably the first time I've ever went back purposely just to rewatch an episode of a show.
Cool. Yeah, I heard it was like crazy action. I think the only show I've rewatched over and over is Malcolm in the Middle and Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
those are my two.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, did you rewatch the episode like right after you watched it? I mean, or did you just like years?
Yeah, I just keep falling asleep. Oh, you mean Halo?
No, I mean Malcolm in the Middle.
Any show.
I've rewatched it a bunch of times, like the whole show. So those are great. Yeah. Well, Game of Thrones, just a couple episodes. That's too long. But
you're not getting. I don't think you're understanding my question, 3-bit.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase this.
Sorry.
Let's say you just watched an episode of Malcolm in the Middle. Do you go and like within that week be like, wow, that was so good, I'm gonna go and rewatch that episode of Malcolm in the Middle?
No, I've only done that with Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man movie. I would be like, wow, and then play it again. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a movie. That doesn't count.
Well, no.
It's
shows.
Okay. It's all right. I love you anyway, man. We'll move on past this. Hey, but we got some exciting news today. If you're a PlayStation fan,
woo!
They finally. And I'm glad you're here, 3-bit, because we're gonna get into some Devy talk today.
Yay, Devy talk.
Yeah, Devy talk on this, and also our Halo topic as well. So, PlayStation is finally implementing VRR, and they have a list of titles rolling out that support it, which I thought Fuzzy pointed out that that's a little strange, you know, because like I think on Xbox it's just there, and they don't have to have like a master list of like here's what games will use it or whatnot. But maybe it's because they want to tell people, hey, since this hasn't been implemented, here's what games are going to be improved by it. Maybe.
Yeah.
So, start with 3-bit, like, finally, right? And what kind of like difference that for people that haven't experienced VRR expect?
Yeah. So I guess for our audio listeners and all the people out there who don't even know what VRR is, it's basically the ability for, I guess, certain monitors that supports HDMI 2. You can adjust the frame rate of a game. It smooths over the FPS stutters. So it's almost like a dynamic FPS adjuster in a way. And so it basically just helps games with frame rate dips. And I made sure before I started commenting on what was Sony, I guess, released this today. I made sure to actually start looking into this because whenever Sony announces new tech, it usually comes with some caveats. Like, okay, it works with this, but this is completely broken or something like that. So I actually made sure to go. Yeah, like backpack. Like this will work, but it doesn't do this. So what Sony is stating with this update, it seems to be pretty decent. So most games will probably need a patch to fully support VRR. And that's where people would probably stop reading. Like, oh, it needs a patch. But it also seems that Sony would provide VRR on the game automatically in an additional settings option as well. So he has like a list of games that are the devs have to go in and patch it to make sure it works pretty good. But Sony also has their own additional option on top of that, similar to Series X. What I don't know really, because it wasn't super clear, is will the game not support VRR even if the setting is turned on because the developer hasn't patched it? Like, let's say if I'm the developer of Horizon Forbidden West and I didn't patch it to include VRR, will if I turn on VRR in my settings, is it still gonna work? Like, or does it need a patch in order for? I don't know. We'll see. They need to like clarify
Like, is it
that a
hardware
little
level or is it software based on the game implementing
bit.
like the
I'm not
turning it on?
sure.
Right.
I'm guessing it's just gonna work how it works on Series X. Like you turn that on, then it'll just work for every game. But
see, I think the default setting will be automatic. It says the VRR setting, it says automatic on the screenshot, and it says allow the refresh rate to adjust in real time while using TVs and games that support VRR. Results will vary depending on the TV you're using. So it's just going to be like whatever games support it. But the weird thing is there's a checkbox that says apply to unsupported games. And
that's what I'm confused about. Like,
well, that's kind of how like my TV works. Like it has an HDR setting, but like I can either turn it on, off, or automatic. If it's automatic, it would just play HDR whenever there's HDR content. But I can turn it on and force it to always be on.
Yeah,
this
if it's on.
This is what it says for that. It says, as an added option, you can also choose to apply VRR to PS5 games that don't support it. This feature may
Which is cool if it's an option.
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, you're fine. It says this feature may improve video quality for some games. If this results in any unexpected visual effects, you can turn off this option at any time. Please note that results may vary depending on the TV you're using, the game you're playing, and the visual mode you're selected for your particular game, if it supports multiple modes. For more details on VRR settings, check out this page. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so yeah, it seems like the safe bet is just to do the automatic setting, but like if you turned it on, you may get improved video quality on some games, but if you turn on the apply to unsupported, but they can't guarantee the quality there. So that's why they released a list of in the coming weeks, the PS5 versions, and only the PS5 versions of these titles, which that's probably pretty normal, right? It's a next-gen feature of these titles will receive game patches enabling VRR support. So that also tells us that the games do need to be patched, right? To enable this feature. So the games listed are Astro's Playroom, Call of Duty Vanguard, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Destiny 2, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Dirt 5, Godfall, Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, and Tribes of Midgard. So that's the first little batch.
So it's saying it needs to be patched, but does the setting, when you turn the setting on, does it just work for all games?
It'll
That's
work.
what
The
I'm confused
automatic
about.
one will work for the games that are supported.
I think the list is just verified like games that work and it's not like bugged out or something. I think that's just the list they put out is like that's verified it works with those.
So that's
titles.
like the Steam Deck thing, like when Steam Deck verifies, like they optimize it, and then that's what I was thinking. Okay, just making sure.
And then if you turn on the automatic one, it may cause some issues here and there, or it may just work, right? So that's basically what they're saying.
They're just trying to make it like a marketing feature.
This does not mean the PS5 has RDNA 2. I keep seeing people bring that back up. I'm like, oh my gosh, guys.
Yeah, wasn't that like a just a delayed feature that should have been there at launch, kind of?
Yeah, because again, Sony has their own implementation of RDNA. It still doesn't have variable rate shading, same for feedback, mesh shaders, all this other stuff, but it's a very important feature that I'm glad they had this because this is something gamers will feel like in the most in the short run. So I'm really glad they implemented it, and it's something that a lot of people sort of been asking for, and it's going to help for games that have those stutters. And it was a lot more prevalent in maybe heavy performance type games. So yeah, I'm glad they finally updated it. This is actually a pretty good thing in my eyes, and giving people the option to turn it off is pretty cool, I guess. I'm just wondering that whole, again, they announced something, but they're like, but it may affect your game performance.
Yeah,
I'm wondering
if they turn on the one that's like that's like a secondary option, right? So I would assume that most people aren't going to even toggle that one on, because if I don't ever have to want to worry about that switch, like I don't want to play a game like, oh, what's wrong? I forget like 2 years later that I even had that switch, like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I would think that a lot of people are just going to choose the one that says automatic, and that's going to be the default, right? So
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine, but I'm just saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad they added it for sure.
What do you think you were talking about the marketing aspect too of this Fuzzy earlier in our DMs, right? Like, what do you think? Like, because this is generating a lot of talk today,
Mhm.
and it's like just something that's kind of been there since launch on series consoles, and nobody's really
Yeah.
talked about it too much. You know what I mean? Except when we were like, oh, this is cool because it has VRR. That's why we're not seeing these frame hiccups. And you see and I've noticed it more of a comparison between people that don't have a TV or display that doesn't support it, right? Whereas
Right.
like, okay, that's cool that I have the display that supports it because this is an awesome experience. Whereas I see it when I'm playing on the other TV that doesn't have that, it's like kind of choppy, right? So I
Yeah.
haven't seen it like um used like and talked about like cross platform, like, oh, they suck because they don't have it too much. I mean, not from like normal people anyway. There's some people out there that do that shit, but it is kind of something that it wasn't really heavily marketed from Xbox, right?
Yeah.
But now
Well,
this feature is heavily being talked about, you know.
we saw when Digital Foundry was doing like the comparisons on like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and stuff like that, and some of the fanboys on the blue side were like, oh, look at all those screen tears and
Yeah.
stuff, and it's like those that were fortunate enough to have like a C1 or the latest LG or any newer TV that had the HDMI 2.1 setup were like, I don't see any of that. That's for people that are on the older, screens and stuff. So now they'll be able to like I think later on there was a couple of games where the PlayStation was having the screen tears and Xbox wasn't, even without having the VRR. And I think it wasn't with Cyberpunk's update, but it was like with Ascent or something like that, I think, where
Yeah.
the PlayStation started having these screen tears. So with them marketing, okay, this game is approved, this one it'll work with and stuff like that, but yet on the Xbox side it just works. I mean, maybe Xbox should start pushing the marketing aspect, but for somebody that's not in the know, like most of us, we're gonna research our TVs and make sure they're compatible with some of the features of the consoles and things like that. Same thing with the monitors for our PCs and such. But there's a lot of casual gamers or consumers out there that aren't in all of those details. Their main detail is, does it have a game that I enjoy playing?
Mhm.
And that's as far as it sometimes goes. And they may have a TV that's several years old that doesn't have a lot of these features. So when they see that, oh well, if I do get one of those new TVs this holiday or next Super Bowl season, I'll know that all these games that I either bought or were looking to buy will work even better than what they did when I originally played them, type of thing. So it's definitely a benefit. I mean, I turned on my PlayStation 5 today and had like 5 updates for some of the games I own.
Mhm.
But yeah, Xbox probably should make or bring more attention to it. But I think a lot of us that already have our Xboxes, especially those that have like an LG C1, they kind of already know. But there's so many people now that are picking up the Series S and X now because they're available. It's probably a good idea for them to speak on it.
Yeah, I agree, man.
See, to me, I just feel like it's a marketing feature that doesn't even matter to the casual people. It's like a lot of casual
Yeah.
people, they just don't care. So it's like they're marketing to a select audience when Xbox is like, we can just market Game Pass to everyone. Like that's where we're going to put our marketing, not in just some feature that no one cares about or no one knows about.
Right. I mean,
Good point.
if Xbox added this feature like 2 years in, though, I mean, do you think there'd be like a blog post about it, or do you think it'd just be like, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's like how Back and Pat was. Like
right?
Back and Pat came a few years in, and like and this is a thing now.
So
So
I think if like it was there at PS5 at launch, we probably also wouldn't have heard about it too much. You know what I mean? But it's almost like they're taking advantage of an opportunity to like promote the addition of a feature, right? And trying to generate some hype behind it, which I mean is going to improve the games. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but it's a very small list of games to begin with. Like I don't know the like list of X games on Xbox that support it or not, because there's none of this thing of like, oh, make sure it's
I
enabled
mean,
and all
it
this
just
stuff. It's like,
works on
It's
every game
every
on the
game,
Yeah.
isn't it?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like I think so, right? Like it. So what we got? Like 10 games here, 20 games, 14. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Again, it probably works
8,
with every
9,
game on
10,
PlayStation.
11.
That's just the verified ones.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So it'll work.
But why is there a second switch then?
I don't know. That's what I'm confused about by the posts, because like it has.
Maybe their version of
I'm
it
guessing
isn't as stable or something, and unless more.
Yeah, so it allows you to turn it off in case it's
Well, I guess like
weird.
so like those games like that would be native VRR like for that game, but like if a game doesn't feel like putting the dev time into making VRR work by flipping the one box, like PlayStation will just do it for them at a system level.
I guess, yeah. I don't
See,
know.
I'm wondering, and I'm probably not as well versed as I probably should be with this VRR stuff, but is it a difference between hardware level and software level? Like, I'm under the impression that this is something that's software enabled on PlayStation and hardware level on the series consoles. Am I wrong on this, or
maybe that could be some kind of like
I mean,
VRR. I don't know. I don't know. Like what? Like I get
we
what you're saying.
saw
like,
the fake HDR stuff that came out when they did
Yeah.
what was it, Digital Foundry
Yeah.
or
Godfall.
Game Inform. Somebody did like a side by side HDR comparison.
you mean like
where-
they're using the PS5, something in the PS5, like software wise, to like kind of
it's software versus the hardware.
right?
yeah.
That's the difference. Like when people say it's like,
This
no,
is what-
look, it's the same. It's not.
You know what?
It's
That's
not
funny
really the same.
because that's what a lot of people like. I never really understood that a lot, you know. But it's what a lot of people were talking about at the start of this generation between the two, is that
Mhm.
a lot of the next gen features and stuff that was going to have to be software based on the PS5, and it was built into the hardware on the Xbox. So like it was going to use, it wasn't, you weren't going to have to use those resources, the CPU resources and all that stuff to try and make up for that stuff. And maybe this is part of that.
Yeah.
Maybe this is why it's taken 2 years to get to this point and even enabling that feature. That was there right
so
away.
If it's software, it's just a different implementation. You could think
They had
about
to
it.
develop
I'm trying
it,
to find an
right?
example. Yeah.
And nobody's
I'm
going
trying
into
to
the
find an
PS5.
example. I
It's
can't.
not like I'm calling like Tom's Hardware and having them come over in there and open up my PS5 and stick something called VRR inside of it, right? It's like it's not a physical thing. It's an update, firmware update, and I don't know, like if it was everything was already like I don't understand how it works. I know you know more than probably most of us do, just because you develop
Yeah, I mean,
stuff.
I know
but,
it's like I'm an animator
Mhm.
and a game dev, and I try to know as much as I can about the tech side so that way I could improve my work for the pipeline. So whatever I do can help out other people who are ahead of me, right?
It sounds like you need to go
So
get
I
a
tried-
job at 343.
I would love to go in 343 and look at some of their pipeline stuff.
We'll get
But
into that later.
essentially, we will. Basically, PS5 is software based, and I'm trying to find a good example to compare software and hardware. But if you do it right,
Well, that
you
would
won't
be
notice.
DLSS because like DLSS, it takes multiple scans of the same game to make the image smoother. Whereas like if you have the hardware power, you can just run the game to like. So DLSS, you get a better image, so it increases
Mhm.
your frames because you're not using as much like hardware resource or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And they have different rendering techniques. Like for
Yeah.
example, the Kraken for the PS5. That's if you're rendering and compressing data. Kraken for the PS5, and I forgot what Series X uses.
Velocity or something.
Yeah, what is it?
Well, they have Velocity
Velocity.
architecture, which is like a mixture of a bunch of voodoo shit to make
But
like things faster and stuff.
all why it doesn't matter as much with variable rate or variable refresh rate is you basically are matching the FPS of the game with the refresh rate of the screen. So if the game dips down to in FPS, and so does the TV. So it's basically matching your TV's refresh rate with the game. So that can be software, and I'm like, okay, I could see that it works better with hardware because they're using the actual system resources to make sure that all of that is just better. I always prefer hardware if it's like in the actual thing, but it can work with software. When you get into the other features like HDR and some of the other features within RDNA, that's when I'm like, I would never do that in software. But that's just me. And you can kind of see the differences in some comparison videos of like how PS5 does HDR, and it basically looks completely blown out, right? Compared to
Like that
like if you
Godfall
just
feature.
yeah, like the Godfall thing. So it's a different way of implementing it. It's not the way I would do it, but I'm not smarter than Mark Cerny, but I do have my own reservations of what I would do differently, and I would never do that.
That's the
But
same
that's
thing
just
with like DLSS, since that's software based. You can see like if it's a fast image in the like a fast object in the game, you see like streaking because it's taking multiple scans of that. But if you just run it hardware based, you don't get that streaking because you just see the object move across the screen. It's not using multiple like
exactly
frames of that
yeah.
image.
So that's why some of the games have like a blur.
DL,
Like a blur.
yeah.
Yeah. I know that some games I have a blur effect on purpose. Like it's a feature you can turn on and
Yeah.
off. Like I need to take that
I don't
out.
think Xbox even uses DLSS though. I think that's just for PC right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to eventually have whatever
AMD's version,
AMD's working
yeah.
on, which is that like almost like that open source one that it'll also work on NVIDIA cards.
Yeah.
Well, they have like Fidelity FX. I don't know what the VRR version is called on.
Basically PS5 is, if we're gonna see which ones they are missing mesh shaders, and it'll take way too long for me to get into a lot of these, but mesh shaders, sampler feedback, they're missing variable rate shading. All those are not in the PS5, and I don't think they will be unless the PS5 makes
Another software feature. Like
I don't even
workaround.
think they could do that with software. They would have to make another PS5.
Well,
Or
I got a question. This may be controversial, okay? And I'm not trying to stir anything up,
Yeah.
but like just for the sake of it, because of the supply shortages and everything, like people want to buy them, right? Like they're still very popular. Like you got a lot of good games still coming out. You got God of War Ragnarok coming out. You got more games coming. They've had more first party games already launched this generation than Xbox so far. And not maybe the second half of this year, the Xbox is going to catch up, but I think Xbox's lineup looks bigger over the long haul, but like there's still like a lot of excitement about this PS5, but they're being outsold in the US pretty significantly. Like even if you go back to last month and then this next month, it's probably going to show the same, right? That's going to add up over time, and it's not because there's not a desire for it. People want the console, and what I'm wondering is, as at some point, do they? I know they already did one revision for some kind of hardware stuff, but like at some point, do they make another like change and just redo this whole thing so that way they can make more consoles? Because I don't know when the shortage is going to end. You know, it's
Well, the
affecting
thing they
everything.
did first was they just cut out some of the metal for the
Right, just to make it save on cost,
yeah.
right? And people were concerned about that, and then I remember seeing like a video where they said it's actually about the same, you know, so it's like whatever. But I don't know if there's an end in like sight for this, you know, supply shortages. So what if they did make like a new
Pro
PS5, right, in the next year or two, right, and that uses a different chip or something, and then make it work with the PS5. That way you don't screw over all the PS5 customers, you know, so you have it compatible. I wouldn't.
It still wouldn't have those features.
You just do a PS5 Pro
You don't
and
think
then
so?
increase some of the like hardware stuff.
Why do you think? Why don't you think they would? Because they would not improve it
Because
enough,
of how much the current system relies on what's already there. Like pretty much everything is built on those, like the SSD and all that, and you would basically, and I remember we talked about this before, but they would basically have to make a whole new PS5 if they wanted to take advantage of some of those features.
But you could make it back compat, right? For this PS5.
What do you mean?
what I'm saying is like it's okay if they make a new one again, a new version completely, as long as the people that bought PS5 games, they can still play them on this new machine.
But how important is that to them? I don't think it's worth it to Sony to completely invest in like a whole new chipset. And
they didn't cut out the PS4 games, the PS5.
No, I'm just talking about all these RDNA features. Like you would actually need to redo a lot of the chip, because the chip that they have isn't. It's basically, I know people use the term RDNA 1.5, but a lot of the features aren't in that chip. So a lot of the infrastructure of the PS5 itself relies on what's already built. It's kind of like when a lot of games are coming out.
Make the games back compat like in the future if they improve all that stuff. I mean,
it sounds like they would have to just do. It would be like a new R&D product line.
They would just have to do a lot,
or it'd be like basically at that point it'd be like a PS5.5 or PS6, I guess at that point.
It would basically be a PS6 if they wanted to redo a lot.
What you could do is just make a PS5 and then like keep the same like processing unit, but just add like another chip on the board, like a Fidelity FX chip or something that includes those features. So like all the other RDNA 2 features that they don't have could run off that chip. I mean, that's
why I'm wondering if it's worth it to them to invest into like basically redoing most of the system on that level. Like for example, like why I thought it was really dumb, and I I remember talking about this, was me, Psycho, Mav. I was saying, what was the point of investing all this money into the SSD if you can't fully utilize it? Like most of the games, if you are completely building your game around an SSD to the level of the PS5, then you can't put that game on any other platform, right? Because you're basically building it to that infrastructure. So then you're basically like, every game you develop for it, you have to be like, well, I can't put this on the PC, I can't put this on anything else. I have to build the game just for the PS5.
SSD was a lie, wasn't it?
Yep. So you run into the problem where you're like, okay, so what can I do with the SSD? And then
Portals
it basically becomes
Ratchet and Clank.
Portals, or it basically becomes as powerful as a Series X, which is like, what was the point of it? That's a whole other conversation, but it does relate to a lot of the stuff that is in the PS5. I'm wondering if they think it's important enough to invest into those RDNA 2 features. Like if it really hinders development and maybe enough people complain about it, then I could see them doing it. But it's pretty heavy R&D to remanufacture those chips. That is basically RDNA 1.5. That's my stance.
Because they had to come up with a lot of their own solutions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because it's their own custom solution. So I'm wondering if they really wanted to, they're $1 billion company. They could do whatever they want. But I'm just wondering if it's.
Well, okay. So what if they
actually wanted to
took their own custom solutions, added upon more custom solutions on top of their chip, and released PS 5.5 with this, and they were able to get? Because I think what I'm getting. The purpose of it
like cell processor.
The purpose of it would just be to like, be able to have make more PS5s, right? Make more consoles, because Xbox has got a lot of availability. I walked into a GameStop yesterday and I was like, "Do you have any Series S's?" They said, "Yep." Cool, I'm gonna get one. And I said, "Do you have any more?" She said, "Yeah." "How many do you want?" I said, "No, I don't want any more. I was just curious." Right. And they didn't have any Series X, but I know they did last week because I had called asking then, because I was kind of going back and forth, if I wanted to pull the trigger on another X. And availability is key, man. Like, and it's going to be a problem. Like, if they can't figure out a way to have a crap ton this holiday, it's going to cut into their earning potential. You know what I mean?
Sure. And in the beginning, it was good for them. Like, remember, PS5 wasn't able to manufacture way faster than Xbox. Like, it was good for them in the short run.
Well, because they had a head start.
Because
they
had a head start, and they only had a head start, though, because they chose not to do those features from AMD's chipset, like, because they weren't ready. So PS5 had a pretty big head start because they chose not to do AMD's full RDNA 2 thing. So when Xbox was like, okay, we're finally ready, they partnered with AMD pretty closely there. Now AMD is able to pump those chips out way faster than the PS5. And now PS5, they can't really talk to AMD about it because they chose to do their own path. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot there. But we'll see what they end up doing. I'm sure Sony's going to talk to a few different manufacturers to try and pump it up for the holiday. But they're dealing with not only having to make their own custom chipsets, they are dealing with the fact that it's custom as well on top of that. So we will see what Sony decides to do.
I just don't know how long they can keep that, like, not having availability. Like, it's got to be on their mind constantly. Like, this, especially losing, like, potentially losing out in North America in the next month or two, you know, or before even. With those numbers that they
again, right?
Last month, those numbers from the MPD came out, and it's like in North America, like Xbox like sold like 200,000 more or some shit like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but you know, they're only, according to the numbers, which the VG charts turned out to be kind of redeemed. You know, it was attacked last week pretty heavily because people were using it to talk about numbers, but then the numbers are kind of vindicated once those MPD numbers just came out.
Yeah, they were only like 4,000 behind Switch or something. Xbox was, weren't they?
Yeah, and for a month, right? And that's crazy, right? So Xbox is kind of killing it right now, and PS5 would be too, but they don't have them in the stores. You know,
and scalpers is a big thing too.
Yeah, so that's true. So I just wonder how long they can keep holding out on that. I mean, because this is with Xbox, it's been without the huge first party lineups. You know, it's been with the lack of content in Halo. You know, it's been with all of these things.
Holiday season is Xbox season, so
it is, and you're gonna have that $299 option, potentially even lower with the bundle, you know, or something. And you got Starfield coming out, you got Redfall coming out, you got Deathloop is gonna be in Game Pass, you got potentially Forza Motorsport, and you know what Forza Horizon did for Xbox last year.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
they got DLC coming soon too.
And you can speak on this too, Fuzzy. Like, you know, Gran Turismo, I think, was a big opportunity for them. You know, and it kind of seems like they squandered that, and now with the squandering of Gran Turismo, which it sold well. It was like number 2, I think, in March. But still, you know, with Forza Motorsport coming out and the negativity around Gran Turismo after launch,
they're definitely in a weird spot. Like okay, so Horizon Forbidden West should have done gangbusters, and because of timing and a lowly anticipated game of Elden Ring came out not too far thereafter, it definitely stole the win from their sales on that. Horizon Forbidden West should have been one of those that they've already been beating their chest about. We've reached 11 million copies. We've reached, 12 million or however many millions or tens of millions. But Elden Ring, it continues to top the charts as far as sales. And then when it came to Gran Turismo, there's a lot of us, including myself, that are like diehard Gran Turismo fans from the early days that are like, yeah, I'm buying it no matter what. And then they were like, oh no, we want you to feel almost like a sense of pride and ownership in, grinding for these vehicles, or pay us money, lots of money to get these cars. And they should have known better. I mean, yeah, they're still learning. They're getting their feet wet as far as this games as a service type of stuff. But it feels like there's a very big disconnect. And yeah, there's still a lot of those that are defending some of the stuff of Gran Turismo. Oh, well, you don't expect to get everything right away like you do in Horizon or Forza. I'm like, wait a minute. So you're saying only Horizon and Forza give you everything right away? So what's the cafe books again? I'm sorry. What does it give you? Like supercars and whatnot? Like for just doing a couple of races?
Yeah.
But they that should have been one of those things where there should have been not necessarily a Gran Turismo edition PS5, but there should have been PS5s on shelves with Gran Turismo on shelves, and this being a quote unquote return to form, they should have sold right out the gate 10 million copies, no ifs ands or buts about it, because I mean, Gran Turismo Sport, as much as people like it now, when it came out, it wasn't as well received because most of what people expect Gran Turismo to be was missing from the game initially. It was just like, oh, you want to do esports race online? Yeah, this is for you. But everybody else is like, wait, we waited how long for a next gen Gran Turismo? What? So definitely a missed opportunity. Definitely squandered their perfect golden
Every other
moment.
day, something was coming out about that game that was just negative.
Well, they did a patch. Here's here's the weird thing. It is still a grind to get money. Although there are much better ways, since they did the previous patch where there's certain championships that pay, a couple 100,000 to $500,000 or so. The drawback is that seems to be not enough, considering for some people, because some of these cars being 20 million and some of them being tied to, well, not really 20 million, but like 9 million and up, being tied to like, trophies and stuff, or what we would look at as far as achievements. You're not going to get $9 million unless you're winning that race a lot. And if you're doing it normally, you're going to be taking almost 45 minutes to an hour to do it. But some people have found a way to get this thing where you're pumping out like 3.5 million credits, almost 3.5 million credits out every hour. And then people went, to ham on it, and they're already at the cap of 100 million. Well, they supposedly fixed it. Well, unfortunately, it seems like, I don't know if they're just that out of touch or just don't know how to fix their own game because of how much they focus on other details and things, but that exploit's still present. I mean, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole because I'm not trying to lose my progress or anything. They'll come down with the band hammer next or something. But yeah, they just don't seem to get their customer base. Like, sure, there's the diehards that are like, oh, I'm willing to do 100 races for $20,000. What? But there's a lot of people, because of how Forza has kind of shaped things and how a lot of other games like Assetto Corsa and Project Cars and things have come along and showed that there are fun ways of earning cars or getting into the car culture and stuff. They just basically they're going with the old method that just isn't ringing true with the player base these days, or at least a majority of them, and I think they're going to suffer for it.
Yeah. Well,
I think the marketing, the people who do the marketing, and maybe even the superiors of Sony, there's a total disconnect with them and the community. But I don't want to speak too much to this game because I was like kind of trashing it early on. I was like visually it wasn't what I expected. Like, it looks beautiful in some courses, and then other courses it looks like not very good. So
Yeah.
I don't want to speak on it too much, but some people enjoyed it, some people didn't. I was just like, it was not. I guess it's not for me.
It's definitely enjoyable in some instances. There is a lot to it, a lot more than what Sport had to start, but they're not up on the constant content. Like, today they dropped 3 cars that it seems like half the community doesn't care about any of them, and they did an extension on a track that we already had. So there's a new layout for it, not a new track, but a new layout for the track. And given that this is 2 months in at this point, people are like, come on. I mean, we think Halo fans are vocal about stuff. There's some of the Gran Turismo fans are like, you had 2 months in the one track? It's like 3 cars?
Yeah, it just
are you
depends
kidding
on what
me?
community you're in.
Yeah, so what would you guys say is the main problem with Gran Turismo? Because I've been following it a little bit. Would you say like the main problem is their microtransactions and how much it's infused? Yeah, the economy infused within the game itself, and it's blocking like enjoyment of the game. Is that like the main problem, or is there anything else like with the mechanics or anything like that?
I think there's a little bit more going on in the background. The microtransaction part is part of it, but I think it's more to do with Polyphony's long time frame for development, and it's not a knock on them in general, but like when you look at Turn 10, they were able to pump out until recently, but this is because we're kind of starting from scratch kind of thing. They were able to pump out a Gran Turismo level game, in my opinion, as far as content is concerned, every 2 years. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, with new cars, with new tracks, with new features. These guys over at Polyphony, it's like this is a almost like a rebranding of Sport with more stuff. That Sport was being developed for the PS3 kind of, and then they scrapped that and did something else for PS3. Like actually Gran Turismo 6 was supposed to be on PS3 middle of the generation, didn't come until the tail end when people already had PS4s in hand. And then Sport came towards the later half, like 2017 range for the PS4 generation. I think Sony was kind of like, hey, chop, chop. This game needs to be out by like close to launch of this PS5. I don't care what you guys got done now. Wrap it up and then add it later type of thing. And I there's just so many little things missing. Like they tell you in the description, oh, you'll be able to sell cars. You still can't sell cars. 2 months in, you can't sell a car. You can buy all the cars you want.
You can give away one for free, can't you?
I mean, you could throw it in the trash can. It's like, oh, discard. Wait, I didn't get anything from it. It's like,
yeah, why would you discard?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like something advertised 2 months later, you still can't do it. They did a patch today, even though they said that the selling of cars was still going to be like a long road thing. It boggles my mind how you advertise the game to have that feature and it's long road.
You could do that in the first Gran Turismo. I don't understand, like, how that's
fair,
like a feature that has to be implemented.
On that advertising point, like GTA 5 advertised Heist, and that didn't come out till like 3 years later. So
true,
that's true. Last of Us, didn't they? Last of Us 2 didn't Factions? It was like,
yeah, it was one of those. I think they originally mentioned it, and then they're like, "Oh no, that's not part of it." And then they went silent, like, "Oh, we're working on it." And then 2 years later, we'll let you know when it's done. I think a lot of people have kind of hit the nail on the head. That's going to be
their free to play thing or something.
Yeah, they're free to play games as a service, and there'll be microtransactions, of course, but I can't wait to see.
Imagine
how
like
they
Halo only, like Halo Infinite, only focused on the single player. It said, "Hey, there's Halo multiplayer coming. Don't worry." And they released the campaign, fully polished, beautiful, gorgeous, lots of content, everything, masterpiece. 2 years later, we still don't hear anything about when the multiplayer is coming. And
I think Redmond would have burned down by now.
And then they drop it, like, you know what I mean, as a free to play, right? I mean, we got that at launch, at least on Halo Infinite. So I'm not trying to make excuses for what Halo's going through now. But if you put it to perspective of what The Last of Us was supposed to be, Last of Us Part 2, and it kind of was promoted and to what we have now is half the game still.
Yeah.
Right? So, but like nobody even talks about that. And it's kind of weird where we're sitting there, constantly harping on content for Halo Infinite, right? To like we need more maps and stuff, which I agree. I was very critical on the 6-month season 2. But like, there's a whole game that like half of it's missing. We don't even have the multiplayer mode for it, and it was another big tentpole franchise, first party, right, from one of the best devs out there. So I don't really see
how much do you
difference,
think.
Like,
how much do you think people like casual? Let's say you are a fan of the Gran Turismo games and you're not on social media and you're just jumping on Gran Turismo. Do you think these problems are still like so prevalent that it's hard to ignore, or do you think like casual gamers could just still play the game and still enjoy it, or like do you think it's so bad to the point I can't get a car without like paying $1 million? Like, is it that bad? If that makes sense.
I try to take a step back and look at it from that standpoint. A lot of times when I'm playing, like originally when it came out, I expressed my frustration on how it was like a slow burn with the cafe stuff, with the menu books and things like that. I think if it's a casual gamer and they haven't been exposed to any other games other than Gran Turismo, like if they've never played Forza and they just picked up Gran Turismo after playing, Gran Turismo 1 through 4 or 1 through 5 or something like that in the past, I think they'll get to a point, not immediately, but they're going to hit a wall or a frustrating point where they get some of the cars they want, but most of the cars that they want are nowhere close to being obtainable for them. And they're kind of pigeonholed to only racing certain cars at certain tracks. And then when they see that, oh, well, I can make my own race and race the car at the track I want, but then get like pennies on the dollar as far as payouts. I think a lot of the casuals, they'll play it for probably 20 hours, because at that point it's almost like that crossroad, and then they'll either put it down or they'll be searching YouTube or something like, how do I make more money in this game? So I think the casual will have fun with it up to about 20 hours. A little bit of, grumblings like, why is this like this for like the first couple of hours? But they'll get into it, and then they'll get to a point where it's like, all right, I want that Ferrari now, or I want that Porsche. And they're like, what? I could buy it and it would cost me $40, or I could play this race that pays $30,000 and do it like however many times
like 50
to
times.
Make the money.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I was just wondering because I try to look from that perspective sometimes, where because I'm a
same
gamer.
thing as Forza 5, Horizon 5. Like,
I mean,
people,
Horizon has so much freaking content.
Yeah, it has so much to do, but people like once they like get to a point where they're like, I want like the nice Ferrari that's like $20 million. They look it up on YouTube and it's like, I can do a 50 AFK lap and get like $100 million and then wake up in the next morning and have all the cars I want. So
yeah,
but I guess it's like the justification of how long will it take in one game compared to another. Like, is it a grind to the point where they are really promoting you to pay as opposed to earn it? And that's always a thing.
It is a tough one. Like I know from a Forza standpoint, the grind that does exist in the game for like Motorsport or even Horizon for that matter is what I would consider reasonable based on today's standards.
Yeah, it's definitely reasonable.
You shouldn't have to do 20 hours to earn enough credits for one car. Like, if you do 20 hours, you should probably have 20 cars or more, and that's what you get with like a Motorsport or Horizon. With Gran Turismo, although depending on if you like certain types of cars, you could probably get a little bit better car in 10 hours, let's say. But
isn't that the complaint with Forza is like they give you cars like candy, so like the cars don't matter?
There's got to be a middle ground in there, though. You know what I mean? Or rather, like, I agree. I don't like being handed cars left and right in a sim racer, right? I want to feel like I'm earning, and I want some level of grind and like progression aspect, right? I don't want to start the race and then like after the race have a slot machine go up and get like a Ferrari, and it's like, okay, nice upgrade. I just upgraded from my Ford Focus to a Ferrari. I've reached the end game. You know what I mean? Like, I like that grind aspect of progression, right? And that's what Gran Turismo used to do better than anybody, right?
Yeah.
And even the earlier Forzas, the earlier Forza Motorsports were really good at that too, you know. But at some point they got they got to the point where we want to make every car available for everybody at the start of the game, and make it ultra inviting for the casual audience. Right, that didn't want to progress and grind for cars, and I get that.
I mean, is Motorsport still like that, or is Horizon? I understand it's more of that arcadey look anyway.
Motorsport's gone into more of the Horizon aspect. The last couple releases, where they even started having slot machine stuff. They even started, they started having like, the prizes, even like with the Forza Hub and all that other stuff. I mean, they just like give you cars out like left and right, man. Like, oh, you played the other Forza games before? That's cool. Let me give you 15 cars. It's like, wow, okay, cool, thanks, man. But like now I don't have anything to work for. Like, I miss that.
Now, one thing it is for certain though, they are getting rid of the Forza Hub, which I used to love the rewards because it's like, oh, I get 300,000 because of my driver level from all of these Forza games that I've played. And not at most points I already had, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. But it was just one of those things like, oh, this is cool, because then I can go ahead and get a second version of this car, and then I can have my drift version of the car, and then I can have my drag strip race version of the car and stuff like that. So they're getting rid of the hub the end of May, and that kind of tells me that whatever flight they're doing is going to be closer to the live game, and they don't want that progress showing. Like if lucky individuals start playing it, and it's like, wait, how did you go from driver level 11 to driver level 14? Oh wait, you must be playing Motorsport 8. But yeah, they're I think they're going to phase a lot of the freebies and reward things out. I mean, you're still going to get rewards. You're still going to have stuff at the end of the race. And I don't know if they'll do slot machines. They'll probably have like daily missions, like, hey, race online once. You might get like a special edition car or a special edition, driver suit or something.
Well, I think the grind for Forza is just different, because like Forza, you try to collect like all the models of like a make of a car brand, and then you get like a special car at the end.
Yes.
So I think that's where like maybe the grind is just different, and it's kind of hard to compare, because like Forza, like I have like 250 cars in Horizon 5 and I've used like 3, so it's just like
I mean, yeah, it's an interesting conversation to have, like how much is too much of a grind. I think as a gamer you'll know when you are kind of feeling screwed over, like as you're playing it. Really, I played 20
also
hours
Forza
and
has those monthly challenges where you get like special cars too, so
yeah.
So
I think the grind's just different.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I know Motorsport 7 had big controversy when it first came out with like microtransactions, and then over time they changed their gear to like a better system, right? Am I wrong about that? Or
the microtransactions was kind of like a false flag type of deal. It's the real microtransactions in Forza is like the extended car packs, which they would come out with packs monthly that would have anywhere from 6 cars to 8 cars in them, and they were usually like $10 or so. And those are the additional cars. Like the game would start out with 660 or so, which was like more than what most games still do to this day. And they would eventually balloon up the list to like 900 cars. But the microtransactions were you could pay $10 for the car packs, or you could pay $40 and get like 8 car packs, which was like savings of like almost $40 in all honesty. But the things that people were calling microtransactions were based on in-game credits. So for example, let's say you did 100 races, you now have $10 million. Well, they would have like a gold, silver, and bronze box that you could buy. A bronze box guaranteed you like a certain sticker or avatar, and maybe a car up to a certain dollar level, and maybe a driver's suit up to a certain like rarity level. If you did the silver one, the rarity would go up. Same thing with the gold, the rarity would go up. So let's say a bronze car, the max would be like $100,000 car at the top end. But a gold box would be like $1 million or a couple $1 million car at the top end. But the only way to get those boxes were with the money that you made from winning races in the game. So
like
only your in-game
packs.
winnings could purchase those.
Yeah. Okay. That's crazy.
But to me, it wasn't a bad system, because it was like, all right, certain things you couldn't outright buy, which everybody wants to have like that exclusive, either car or driver suits. Like, hey, how'd you get that? And you had a chance of winning it if you couldn't do some of the online challenges. Like some of those online challenges, you were racing against real race car drivers, or you were racing against some of the staff at Turn 10 that they know how to get around those tracks. A few times I would wind up beating them by, tenths of a second or whatever, but some of those, they were kind of difficult. And if you didn't get that driver suit, or you didn't beat the esports champion from the Forza competition or something like that, then the only way to get that driver suit was through those boxes. So you could spend some of your in-game credits to have a chance at it. And the good thing is, I I think it was so you couldn't get duplicates. So it wasn't like you would get screwed over and be like, oh, I got the same $10,000 car over and over and over again. It was one of those things where it would see what you already have, and then that's removed from the loot pool. So
yeah, that's exactly like Halo 5 rec packs.
I kind of miss. Well, I don't miss that Halo 5 rec system, but I appreciate
it was the better of the
more.
microtransaction system.
Yeah, it was the better.
No, but that was that controversy when they said microtransactions and loot boxes. It was definitely like
Over
false.
exaggerated. Okay, yeah, because I just heard about it in passing. I never like dove into it. I just remember hearing about it. I'm like, huh. I never really played Motorsport 7, but I was thinking about jumping into it.
It's a great
at one
game.
point.
I mean, gameplay wise and everything, it's a great game. It just lost some of the like earlier like more pure aspects of it for me. So it was like for me it was like one of the weaker in the motorsport, but that's not saying that's bad because all motorsports are excellent. You know what I mean? It's just in the lower of the bunch for me as far as as the single player campaign and stuff goes.
You guys should definitely check out a documentary on how Forza took over the gaming industry. It's very interesting.
Well, we're gonna probably
competition with Gran Turismo.
We're probably gonna see a new one this year. The key with Motorsport is they're able to get one out every 2 years for the first 7 games, and Gran Turismo is able to get one out every 8 years, like something like that. So, yeah, I think Motorsport will be here this year, and I think again, like how this whole Gran Turismo conversation started, I think like Motorsport has a chance now, especially with how Horizon 5 looked. The graphics blew everybody away. Motorsport should be the next evolution of that because of simulation.
Oh my god!
If they go all out on this, and I mean with that $300 console out there and the $500 consoles being available this holiday, I think the sales numbers are just going to get even more dramatic, especially in the U.S. But I think Forza Motorsport is going to help a lot in Europe as well because that's always been a very popular European franchise, right? Motorsport's been a very popular Europe game, so I think that'll help a lot there. And then we got Redfall, Redfall coming, and I just think it's going to be a crazy big holiday. I want to see PS5 get the availability things sorted out because I want to get one again right now to play Gran Turismo. I had sold my other one because I really wasn't playing it at all, and but I was kind of in the market, and now I'm like on the fence. Like if they do announce Forza Motorsport, and with all the things going with Gran Turismo, is it worth it? Because I'm not a huge God of War fan. Like I've never really been into it. I've been into like Uncharted and Ghost of Tsushima and stuff like that. Infamous. Yeah. But not for some reason that's just God of War's never clicked for me.
Have you lost all your saves since you don't have a PlayStation anymore? It's been like 6 months.
It's very possible.
I think that's how it works.
I might have been paying all along for PS Plus just to save them.
If you have PS Plus, then I guess that's how you get your cloud.
I'd have to go and look at my statements and stuff and say, did I pay for PS Plus? I mean, it's been what, like I don't remember when I sold it right before Christmas. So it hasn't been 6 months yet. So I
had like a year or two. I think I got 2 years of PS Plus, so I forgot about it.
All right. Let's see. Now, guys, I got some breaking news.
Oh,
7 Days to Die is coming to Game Pass.
Wasn't that on the? That's not. They announced that already, didn't they? Was that breaking?
I don't know. They just tweeted it. They just tweeted it like 8 minutes ago. It says, the Fun Pimps have teamed up with Xbox Game Pass and Game Pass PC and are proud to announce that 7 Days to Die is now part of the Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Game Pass for PC programs. Play the classic console or Alpha 20 PC version of the game. So that's a thing. Also, hey, we found out today, Halo had been prototyping some interesting modes when they were making the game early on, and this has caused a big another amount of controversy over Halo today. I think personally for me, I think a little like unnecessary like controversy in this aspect. The whole 6-month thing for season 2, yeah, we can talk a lot about that, right? But for them prototyping stuff early on in like development of a game, and I don't know if there's a whole lot to look at there. That what this whole controversy about is they were looking at like a hero shooter model for multiplayer, right?
Well, from what I understood is there was a YouTuber that came out and said that the game was still being prototyped 2 years ago. But according to Jason Schreier, he had no time frame on this. This is like where the YouTuber just kind of like took words from Jason Schreier,
Right.
from what I got. And Jason Schreier is just saying that from what he knows, the game was prototyped. He just didn't have a time frame on it.
Right. With
So
elements also, not
yeah,
just like it's a hero shooter, pure hero shooter. Like what I would envision, like my vision of it, Halo hero shooter, right? Is okay. You have the traditional game modes and
I
maps
mean
and all
that's
that
what
stuff.
Reach was, if you want to really point to it.
Exactly. We were talking about this in DMs earlier, but you have the traditional Halo maps and all this stuff. But where I would go further with it, if I was to try and make Halo a hero shooter, is I would take all the Spartans from like lore, from the books, from the TV show, from the games, all of them, and then make those individual characters because they already all have like unique traits, like George walk around with like the minigun, and then you have like Kai has
The
like the
sniper.
sniper, then you have like
June was the sniper.
I think Buck had a shotgun usually, right? Stuff like that. I can't remember what Buck usually uses, but anyway, you usually have like the individual traits, right? Like some are bigger, some are like, faster and all this stuff. And this kind
That
of
would
like
be
goes.
sick.
So if you were to develop it, like, okay, let's say I'm gonna pick George, like kind of think of Apex Legends, right? You got George, and now you have a bunch of armor you can unlock for George, right? And then you can also, maybe upgrade his guns and stuff like that over time. But this still feels and plays like Halo, right? So that's what I would think of if they went like pure hero shooter Halo, which I think could
I think
work.
that's probably where the armor core system kind of came from.
You think so?
Yeah, you could see, like, I think you can kind of see how the armor core system would work since everything's locked together.
Yeah.
Like, if they made it just like, and that may be where the Reach thing came from, because they were going to do Reach characters as the first season of Heroes. So I think it kind of makes sense, but
Yeah.
it's still a thing where they were prototyping it, so it's not like a guaranteed thing they were going to go with. Like, I mean, I don't know.
I think people are like, well, the main reason people are upset is they feel like it was a waste of time, and that's why we're like in the situation.
But that's how
we
games are
now.
made. You brainstorm ideas and test ideas.
Oh my gosh.
So
This is a part of. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you're fine. Yeah, you could pick up on that 3-bit.
Okay. Well, this is a part of game development. Like, it's so dumb to me that people are just like, this is taking away my precious time. Do I have my gripes with Halo? Everybody knows in the panel that I do. I love Halo, but with Infinite, I've been mad of how it's been handled with like some of like the scheduling and things like that. This is besides the point. This has nothing to do. Like,
What's going on
prototyping
now,
is
right now.
yeah, like prototyping is just a natural stage of development. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to make Infinite a third person action adventure trying to prototype it. Like, prototyping is just one of those stages where you just try things. It's actually really good.
That's probably where we got the grappling hook from.
Yeah, probably. Honestly, like there's so many ideas that comes out of prototyping that you may completely get rid of. You may use some things, you may never use any of it. But it's a good stage for actually really talented developers to just make something that's different and unique, and then you never know what ideas come out of that can spin into a game mode or potentially the vision for what is Halo Infinite. So when you are prototyping, it's just a natural stage of development. Usually it's a side team that does it while the main people are working on assets. You have the director who's finalizing the story. You have people who are conceptualizing environments to get to the modelers. You have the animators who are building. They usually have lists of things they animate off of, which is like grunt dying 1, grunt dying 2. They'll start animating. So prototyping is just one of those stages. They usually get a group of game developers, usually a side team, while the main team is working on the game, especially if you're a bigger budget studio. and then they go ahead and start prototyping just different things to show to a main team in maybe some meetings. They're like, hey, what do you think about Master Chief as Nathan Drake jumping on boats and whatnot? And they're like, I don't like it, but that grapple hook, that's pretty cool. Let's see if we can do
Let's
something
move
with
that forward.
Let's move that forward. You never know what comes out of prototyping. So to me, it's just really dumb. People's overreaction to it. Like, I get it's coming from a place of frustration. With Halo Infinite, that's most likely where this whole thing's like. Any news that comes out Infinite, everyone's just like gonna.
I think the
pounce on
problem was they
So-
said it was 2 years ago, so people were thinking it is still being prototyped 2 years ago,
it. Yeah, I
but
don't know.
there's still no time frame on that.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that
still,
was just
it's still ridiculous. It could happen in again prototyping. It could happen in the beginning, or it can even happen in mid of development. Let's say they're building out the game, and they need more ideas. They'll take a side team, do the same thing, prototype what they have so far, or it could happen in the beginning of development where there's not much there. So it can happen either way. But either way, it's kind of.
I know when this came out, someone, I guess, either got an image from a dev member or something, but there's a leaked image of a build of 2019, and you see like all the polygons and stuff. There's no like textures on anything, but you see like some like shitty UI elements. So it's like,
Yeah.
they're-
And sometimes they use assets from like Halo 4 to
Yeah.
do like the battle rifle and stuff like that.
Right.
It can happen when you are just starting. Like, let's say, like, okay, we're gonna have a game. It's called Halo Infinite. Let's start some prototyping. It could happen at that stage of development, or it could happen like midway. Like, maybe they have the base of the game sort of laid out, but they're like, we need some ideas. Can we get some people to like start doing vertical slices and prototypes? It could happen either way. So it could technically happen in the middle of production or the beginning, but it's necessary. Like, people who are outside of development need to understand there's people who are actually working on these games, and they don't always know which direction to go. They have millions of people talking their ear different directions of what to do.
And depending on
So-
how they design the game, like maybe they thought that they could like make all the assets, and maybe they think they can make maps and stuff quickly, so they might put that off on the back
Well,
burner.
that turned out not to be true.
Yeah, if their tools are like quick enough where they can throw stuff together and make just maps and land and stuff, like maybe they put that on the back burner. So it's just depends on
I'm
their
not
dev
even defending
pipeline.
that, because you guys, most people who follow me know I have major gripes with how they develop this game. I'm just saying, with this specific topic, with the prototyping, that it's necessary. It's just part of
I'm just
development.
saying that they have different. Maybe they have different.
I think
dev
people are
pipelines.
I think people are taking the whole like hero shooter thing too far, like, because they just say elements, like hero shooter elements, which is like the same
think it'd be
thing
kinda
as
cool,
Halo
honestly.
4 and 5 as well. Like, they didn't even say anything like going as far as what I mentioned, right? Which is like, that's pure
Overwatch.
hero shooter. You know what I mean? That's pure hero shooter. And like, if they're just saying hero shooter elements, then that could be Halo Reach, like you said, Jasper. Because that pretty much was a hero shooter. I mean, you had individual abilities and stuff that, depending on who you pick. The only difference was it wasn't preset based on who you chose, right? You could do it with any custom Spartan.
Yeah, I think Halo's the one game where I'm like, you could literally put any mode in it and it makes sense to me, because it's one of those games that it reminds me of like Star Wars, where you can fit the game in so many different genres, because it's more so about the universe. Like, we're so used to the first person aspect of Halo, but Halo's like a huge universe. You can make it a third person action adventure game. And it all makes sense.
So what if they took those ideas, right, like of a pure hero shooter, and made it into some more fun, like fast paced, like almost like more like animated type game that's separate? You know what I mean?
I think the hero shooter genre is just dying. It was short. Like, Overwatch was like the hype of it, and it lasted like a year, and then it just Battle Royales came out, and Battle Royales took over. I think probably they were going to work on a hero shooter because that was the big thing. But then it's just like, oh shit, this is not what people want now. People want battle royales.
People want they went traditional, which everybody loves as far as the gameplay, right? But people are upset now with the pipeline of content, which is very reasonable to be upset after the season 2 announcement was 6 months long, right? So, which is essentially, isn't that kind of another delay for everything? Because even if you're saying it's coming out in the middle of the season, if you're actually extending the season out double what it's supposed to be, then that's actually when season 3 should have hit. So it's almost like an excuse of saying campaign co-op's coming in the middle of season 2 when it would have been season 3 if they didn't make this announcement that it was being extended.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck is going on over there. I mean, I have some knowledge of what's going on over there, but it seems like the engine troubles really screwed them up. it really screwed up a lot of the people there. The management sucks over at 343.
Are you talking about names that we know they suck, or are you talking about like other management?
I'm just talking about other management, like just other developers I've talked to personally.
Yeah.
Like it's not good over there. And that really sucks. I think they are super talented. Like there's a lot of developers over there who are super talented. I think their pipeline of just figuring out when to work on everything and not scrapping work. There's so much work they've done where they're like, okay, let's build these systems, and then they will be like, oh, we got to scrap this because of something else. So they would continuously work on things and scrap it, work on things, scrap it, and we would get a piece of that for like seasonal content, which I found out about not that long ago, and it's just it just sucks. They really need some help over there, and I've always said like I'm not sure about Bonnie as the leader, but
it seems like the whole studio is a big focus group, and they just kind of keep bouncing ideas off of each other, and then like at the end of the day, just only one little thing clicks, and they spend like a month.
Like, it seems to me like they're always just playing their game and not making it.
Maybe, and it sucks because it's such a good game. That's what frustrates me and a lot of people probably on this panel. Like, it's Halo Infinite is such a good game. The basis of what's there is fantastic. It's one of the best first-person shooters out there right now. I would just say I'm frustrated about the lack of content. The communication is one of the biggest things. Like, they are not that good at communicating. They really need to work on that. But I'm hoping we could get. So Forge is at the end of this year, November, right?
September's open beta, I think.
No, yeah, September's open beta, and then Forge should hit in November.
Once that hits, that's when I feel like Halo and they fix custom and stuff.
November, but
yeah.
Okay, well, that's when Halo Infinite will start to finally feel sort of like Halo, because Halo to me is about all these different modes you play with your friends. Like, we haven't really gotten to play huge custom games because it's really buggy and it's not like the other Halos, you know. So there's a couple of modes in there I would love to see. I would love for these new maps to come out finally, which is soon. And
I was
would
watching
like better communication with
one
them.
of the like Halo people that make a lot of Forge maps, and he was saying that he thinks that the open beta, like when it comes out, whatever you make in that for the first period of time, it may not carry over to the full thing since they're still testing it, and you may have to restart some of your creations.
Okay.
Which,
well, I know this Forge is very ambitious. Like, the stuff that's in this Forge is basically like a game engine in itself. So I do respect the work they're putting into Forge, but dang, that kind of sucks. I didn't know that. We'll see.
I can't wait.
it makes sense, but
yeah, the stuff that people are going to make in Forge, which is why I'm waiting for that to come out, because I think that's going to have so many cool game modes. Like, imagine the game modes people could do with grapple hooks. Like, that's going to be amazing. Like Spider-Man, I could picture like a Spider-Man game.
It's going to be like the game
Unlocked.
you know, for the community to make
Yeah.
whatever they want, and you know,
It's gonna unlock a whole other section of Halo.
It's gonna almost be like Trials, where Trials that people make like first-person shooters inside a dirt bike game. You know,
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, and I would love to see that. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting for that for the most part.
In more Halo news, I remember somebody said this before on one of the other shows that we have about Halo should really have some like tie-in stuff with the show in Halo Infinite.
oh yeah, I
Right.
said that. Like,
So
if they came out,
so it is tie-in. It's
Right.
not.
So
uh,
this was said today, actually. Halo Infinite is getting tie-in DLC for the Paramount Plus TV series. 343 Industries has announced when it's arriving, and it's sooner than some might have imagined. In a blog post, 343 said the upcoming Season 2 Lone Wolves update will add a series of show-related cosmetic items. They did not, however, reveal what this content will be specifically, nor did they say if it'll be free or paid. It looks like we'll have to wait a bit longer to learn more. Brian Gerard previously teased that that tie-in DLC will contain threads and nods from the show. Technically speaking, Halo Infinite and the show take place in different timelines, with the show embracing the silver timeline. That said, Gerard said fans can expect nods back and forth between the two. Right. I like that they have separated it easy to follow. Like for us now, I can say this is the silver timeline, and it's referring to like the lore of the show, and like I guess I can say it's the blue timeline for the lore of the game, right? If I want, you know, because that's the key aspect, like the silver team and the blue team, you know, are one of the main differences. But yeah. So one of y'all's wishes come true. I guess we're gonna get some tie-in content in the show.
Cool. So this is nothing to do with the Paramount TV show. This is like
it has
another.
everything to do with the Paramount TV show.
I'm reading it right now, but it just has. Okay, maybe I'm reading this wrong.
Yeah, it starts off with Halo Infinite is getting tie-in DLC for the Paramount Plus
For the
TV
Paramount
series.
TV series.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've completely
Yeah.
got it.
So basically, you're gonna get some maybe cosmetic items for like the Spartans and stuff that are in the show. You know, you might get like Vanek stuff. You might get Kai stuff. I can't remember what's the other one's name? The other girl,
Kai Vanek,
the one that never speaks or talks in the show.
shoot,
She's like a tactician type character.
yeah, I could have told you yesterday, but now you're asking me, and I don't know.
So yeah, there's gonna be some of that.
Oh,
Um,
okay, that's cool.
Yeah, we'll see if it's like when it comes out. There's no like
Riz.
That's right. Yeah, there's no like official timeline or whatever, but that's kind of exciting.
So whenever season 2's come out, they might have like that version of Cortana as your AI or something.
Well, they said
That'd be cool.
season 2, meaning Halo season 2, not season 2 of the show, right?
Yeah, season 2 of like this season. Season 2
Oh, yeah.
Lone Wolves.
So okay,
Yeah.
season 2 Lone Wolves
Of
will
Infinite.
have Paramount TV things. in it.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
It'll have
I
a
was so
series of
confused for a second.
show-related cosmetic items.
Cool. All right. So that's soon. That's happening pretty soon then.
Yeah, like
Well, they didn't
almost a
necessarily
week, a
mean
little
like
over a
at the
week
start
away.
of season 2. It
Yeah,
could be like a shadow of
But
whatever
isn't-
they have.
Well, season 3 is at the end of this year, right? November.
Yeah. We have 6
No.
months they can put it
Yeah.
in. So like
But
soon,
I
guess
think
it's-
we'll learn
Yeah.
more on the 27th because they're having a live stream on the 27th, and they're gonna
Mhm.
reveal a lot of stuff about season 2. So they got out a lot of the news regarding season 2 early that we're gonna be disappointed with, and hopefully they're gonna blow us all away. And what I hope they do is with the tease in season 2 is give us like a potential glimpse at Forge. Right, or campaign co-op, like just a little tease. Because I think, not that they like have to like do a whole blowout on it, but I think if you just show something, like give a little hint, it could help the community like a lot, like and kind of get some people off their back if they can see the amount of stuff that they're working on, right? And not just to label it as a mode, right? You show them the ambition visually of what it is that they're creating and why it's taking so long, right? Other than just be like, hey, yeah, we're working on this content, it's not ready yet, and people see it and be like, well, that sucks. But if you put like a visuals to it, then it could kind of help people be like, okay, I'm willing to wait for that. I want it to be finished when it comes out. You know what I mean?
That would definitely help. I feel like they type things and then they run away from their keyboard.
Exactly.
Like, oh, fine.
And that's a marketing thing. Like Xbox and 343 and a lot of like the teams have just kind of failed in those regards. Like Fuzzy, I want to get Fuzzy on this real quick. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you think that would help, right? Like if they showed something instead of just talking about it.
They need to do kind of like what they did before the launch, where they show some of the modes, they show some of the content, they just so that way we kind of get a feel for what they're bringing along, and maybe some of the stuff that's in the pipeline for the following season, like even if it's just hints of stuff. I know there's frustration just in general because of the amount of time it's taking, but if they show some of these things, I think that would be helpful in that regard. Or kind of like what you guys were talking about before, where some of these custom maps and things like that, if the tools are ready to allow some of the creators, kind of like I think even Pong was saying this too, it's like let some of those creators start making that stuff now, or at least get some of the maps in at least testing phase. Like do kind of like a lot of other games where you have a public test server or a PTS type of setup where, all right, we're gonna prototype these. It'd almost be like the way Horizon does for some of the custom tracks and custom events and things like that, and just let people have at it, at least in the meantime, to kind of give you feedback while you're still working on some of the things that maybe some of these things aren't as much of the priority in comparison to something else, let's say. But they definitely should show some of these things at least a little early, to kind of, even if it's, dare I say, like the what do they call those? Not the storyboard, but like I guess they refer to them as renders or something like that. But like when they have basically the stills of some of the things that they're looking at as far as like potentially new maps or biomes and
concept
work
art
in progress or
so that they should probably at least try that, to kind of take some of the focus on them being yelled at for another 6 months type of thing.
Well, I will say that at the end of their announcement they had the other day for this, they said they're going to start doing seasonal drop pod events where they, I guess, come on and just talk about the state of Halo and what they're doing to improve it. And I guess they'll have these regularly. I'm not too sure. They didn't really say, but. And they also said for the April 27th event, they're going to focus on going over the Battle Pass rewards, new events, new multiplayer narrative events, new game modes, new storyline stuff for, I guess, the multiplayer events. Mm-hmm. And they said we'll be discussing the roadmap in more detail during this live stream. So probably like a 30-minute to an hour live stream discussing season 2. So
yeah, that as a Division player, that stuff definitely helped. I mean, like the state of the game or something, or state of play or something like that. Not state of play, not the PlayStation deal, but it was like the state of the game that they used to do for the Division, where it's like they would go over some of the stuff. I think
Destiny does that stuff too every now and then.
Yeah. So Halo definitely needs to push that, and let the fans in to some extent. Show them some of the stuff that may be a sore spot as far as why some things are taking as long, and at least show some of the the progress in work kind of thing.
I think maybe we've just been spoiled from Destiny, because like Halo is so close to like Destiny just gameplay wise, and Destiny is like, you get continued story like expansions, you get multiplayer maps, you get so much with Destiny, and it's like Halo is so close to that. It's just, and you just don't get it,
Yeah. But a lot of that too is like we didn't get that right away with Destiny. Like when the original Destiny first came out, which is like Destiny 2 is pretty much just like a Destiny expansion almost. You know what I mean? Like when the original Destiny came out, there was a lot of backlash.
A whole
over
year
that.
before you really got
Yeah,
anything.
and the first raid that we got, like a lot of people were really upset, and like because it lasted for a couple days, was like exciting, right? But like after that, like everybody beat it, and it was like, okay, now we gotta wait, to win for more stuff, and people were complaining that there wasn't enough story in Destiny back in the day, right? And this is like back with the original when it first came out. Over time, they've developed the pipelines, and they developed the flow, and they've figured stuff out. That was
And they
their
had
first
trouble
time.
with their engine for Destiny 1 that they had to work out.
Yeah.
And it was a big problem.
So it's kind of like following a lot of the same trajectory, actually, like with what they went through. And once 343 gets it, and they get the teams in place, the systems in place, the pipelines in place, and they figure out a flow of content, then it'll become simpler, I think. But they just it hasn't clicked for them yet. I don't know what they need to do to get it working. I know that it does seem like, for me, like just on the outside, not knowing how a game is made 100%. I mean, I've watched game dev diaries and all that shit. You know what I mean? But it doesn't really tell you all the ins and outs of it. All the contract workers that are hired to do all this stuff, all the teams involved. But what it does seem to me is that they're almost like scared to screw up too much, right? Because this franchise is so important, right? It's so important to Xbox, and it's like they have so much pressure on them that they feel like they have to test everything out the ass before they release anything. And then by that time, when the thing's been in testing and stuff, it's like they already, maybe it's passed them by, or they change their mind, and then we go in a different direction or something, and like they keep working on stuff and then moving around, and then never releasing enough content, because they have such a big policy about not making sure anything goes in unless it's perfect or whatever, or perfect for the community. We know the community is going to love this 100%. We cannot fail with this one, right? It's like that's what makes it, And instead of having like a creative vision that's like, well, this is what we're going to do. Everybody needs, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and let's just get it going and get the content flowing, right? And a lot of these games have their misses and their successes and their misses, but like the content keeps people coming, right? And then you see what you like, see what you don't like, and in a free to play game, I think it's kind of more okay to let the community try things out and kind of be a little bit more like free with your content, and try and see what's going to work, see what people like, see what people don't like, as opposed to having so much behind the scenes that you don't release, and it creates this long drought of pipeline stuff. And I think that if they could figure that out, right, and I think it's because the studio overhead isn't really led by creatives, right? It's led by executives that are kind of more like, we have to treat Halo like it's the pinnacle of everything, and make sure that it holds up to the standards of the Halo fans. So then they have policies, which know that they have in place, because I've seen even like Frank O'Connor's and stuff say it on threads and stuff, that like, we listen to every piece of feedback, even the really toxic ones, and we make sure that is sent to the right person to look at that. And even if it's toxic, we'll take the point of it and look at it, and we make sure every single person is heard, regardless of how awful they are, even if they say they want to kill us or all that shit. Like, they listen to everything, right? And it's like they care so much about what the fans want, and which is a good thing, right? But you can't let it keep you from being able to actually put out a product, right? And I think that's been 343's biggest flaw. In the past, it's been Microsoft's biggest flaw, but especially like under Phil Spencer, where he like really cares about everybody, and like you've seen this from like the Xbox first teams, the ones that are like built by Xbox or have already been under Xbox. You don't see
They have
it
a
as
lot of
much
pressure on them,
Yeah, they have a lot of pressure. They don't want to mess up.
because it's literally, this is Halo Gears.
They'll
and,
invest years and years and years of development and testing to make sure they get things right. Like, instead of just be like, hey, you have this amount of years to get the game out, pick a direction and go, right? And like, that's why we see with Everwild. Everwild, like, what the hell is it? We still don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, I don't know if they ever knew what that was either.
Right, because they're letting them just prototype and prototype and prototype and figure it out. And like, it's it's just an overall arcing thing. That's not a bad thing
It's
because
a catch-22
Yeah.
because like you as Microsoft, you give people, this is the
Time.
problem Microsoft
Yeah.
might run into.
they're giving a lot of people time.
They've learned, if you guys watch the Microsoft documentary, it's really good, the Xbox one. They go into that mindset where they flip a switch of, we need to give studios the freedom to
Mhm.
be what they are. Like that studio has their own DNA of how things run, how things should release, and they have their own DNA. Um, but and that will work for the most part. Because if they bought them before, I mean, 343 is a special case, but if it worked before and you let studios sort of thrive, and then awesome, then you are pretty much just a financial backing in that, and it's a pretty good relationship. But if you don't put enough pressure on them, then they will dilly dally and come up with prototypes over the years.
It's kind of
and
like
that's right.
Microsoft is a parent, and they don't know if they want to just like discipline or just let it
Exactly.
run
Well,
free.
it's like
Like-
they brought in the kids that are trained now, like the ones that have been doing successful on their own, and they've acquired all of those studios. And it's like, okay, well, you guys know how to do it, so we'll bring you in. And the ones that have been here, they still make great stuff, but they don't get it out as fast because they are used to this, like, you know, free creative.
It's a
state.
weird problem for them to have, because you're like, whenever people they were worried about Microsoft buying all these studios, they're like, oh, I'm afraid that when they buy them, it's just going to become this gobble of not who the studio is anymore. But that's not really what they're doing. They are buying these studios to give them more freedom to do what they want.
Mhm.
So far, right? So far they're doing a pretty good job at that. But that means they also, I feel like with 343, they need to be more hands-on with because their management isn't the best. So we'll see if like their method works, because if, again, you guys should definitely check out the Xbox documentary that led them to start doing that, because it was basically Fable, the whole Fable facade. I believe that's when it started, when that studio shut down and they kept trying to get that game out, and they were really hands-on with that studio, and it just didn't work out. Sometimes I feel like you do need to be a little bit hands-on, but it's a balance. You want a studio to maintain their DNA, their culture, because they are unique, and that is why you bought them in the first place. But if they are kind of messing up and they don't have the best management in place, then maybe that is the best time for you to step in and make those decisions. So,
Yeah. Well said. Well
Thank
said.
you.
All right, so we'll see what happens. I think ultimately, like we said, that game's going to be fine, and it's just going to take them time. And once they figure it all out, then there'll be more content than any Halo we've ever seen before, right? But
once
this
you
is going to be a
add co-op,
long
I'll be
6
a happy
months.
boy.
That's
I'll be
coming
a
in
happy
August,
boy.
late August, 3-bit.
Okay,
Target.
August I'll be happy.
Late August.
Late August I'll be happy.
We'll see.
Maybe.
That's the target. Yeah.
I would be targeted to maybe be happy with the game.
Yeah. We're targeting for 3-bit's happiness late August.
Yeah, there you go.
So. All right. Well, I mean, that's pretty much all the big stuff for today. Unless anybody's got anything else you want to add in here. Any spiffy news topics? No. All right. Cool. Well, chat, you've been rocking as always. Her talk Vin, Andrew, Cullinane, Key, miss you, Key. Stop by. Good to see you, man. I know you've been crazy busy, been away for a while. Matt, Tony, Grasso, back from the dead. Dreadpool. Shout out to Dreadpool Xbot448. Stop by. My lovely wife, Caitlin. Arsonist Brian. What's up, dude? Artie, Jigga J. Thank you all for hanging out. Appreciate you. And hey, Buzzy, where can they always find you?
Well, they can. Well, I want to thank you guys for this. Was an awesome conversation and everything on the news. Hopefully, we'll have some more news coming next week. But man, definitely dove deep into these topics, and want to thank the chat for coming out and watching us. And shout out to Key. Hope everything's going well. And then, man, oh man, just love doing this stuff. But for those that want to hear my ramblings on racing games or any games in general, just follow me on Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere, YouTube fuzzy_Belvedere. Friday mornings on Breakfast with Boom, and on Saturday evenings on the Shop Podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Awesome,
Thank you.
dude. And the way too good-looking 3-bit that I'm gonna turn off his camera because he makes me look bad. Where can everybody find you, bro?
Everyone can follow me on Twitter at i3bit. It's been a pleasure talking with you guys. I love nerding out to these topics and getting to talk games because right after, usually I end up just working and then going back to my world. So yeah, appreciate all the different topics, Mav, that you put together. Fuzzy, Jasper, you guys are awesome. And I'll see you guys on the next show.
Right on, dude.
So
And
Mav's not awesome, just me and Fuzzy.
Oh yeah, Mav.
I'm not. It's okay. He told me that a long time ago. Jasper, the realist, the lore master. Where can everybody find you, bro?
You can check me out at Lore Jasper on Twitter, Lore Master Jasper on YouTube, and FSP Monday 6, Fun Pop Wednesday at 7, and Xbox Ultimate is Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fun Speculation channel. Stop by, say hi, chat, do whatever you want to do in there, I guess. And that's where you can find me.
Right on, dude. And like Tony Grasso says, see you all on the other 2 shows. Yeah, right on, dude. Appreciate you, Tony. Yeah, so guys, check out Fun Speculation. We got lots of fun stuff coming up on the channel. We got lots of news coming up in this summer, for sure. We're gonna have, showcase streams. We're gonna have game streams. We're gonna have lots of podcasts. We got episode 86 of Xbox Ultimate happening this week. Gonna be talking more TV show, movie stuff coming up on Wednesday for Fun Pop.
And whatever you're smelling.
And whatever I'm smelling, you may be hearing some of that maybe on Thursday on PM in the PM with Pong Soul. So we have a huge guest this week on PM in the PM with the one and only Randall Thor 19 joining us on Thursday. So excited about that. And I hope you all have a great one. So take it easy, chat. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Later.